Two interesting things going on. I read Kerry Eggers wrote a story on Damien Martinez yesterday and the Damnation NIL collective stuff that's going on in Corvallis. And interesting to read both sides. Damien Martinez claiming he wasn't getting certain things.
Yeah.
And the person running the collective claiming this is not true. We're very put together. We gave him this. We gave him a car. He wanted a different car. We agreed to the new car. He has a house now, which, is Damien Martinez going to be a homeowner in Corvallis for the next 35 years? He just rents it out to college kids?
I mean, it's one of the best places you can own a house because you're going to have a rental population
forever.
Every year.
Every year.
You don't got to look far to find college students that need a house.
And everybody's going to have their own takeaways. There's some encouraging news. I think if you're a diehard of the diehards, they're claiming they have a big whale close to donating into the collective. But my takeaway was kind of the same take I had yesterday after reading that story. Obviously, the Martinez stuff is unfortunate. Clearly, somebody got in his head. He wants a different situation, so he's leaving. And my takeaway is, if I'm donating to this, I don't feel like I'm getting anything in return for my money.
No, I don't know how much of that money goes to the baseball team and how much of that they'll be able to keep together, but maybe that becomes the thing, to spend your money on that because it's a national powerhouse that competes for national championships basically every year.
Jordan Pope made $100K as the best men's basketball player.
That was money that was wasted because the program's just lost.
Well,
I know you got to pay to keep your good players, but that,
I know.
That's just
But this is kind of the point. If you pay your one best player, but your team sucks,
what are you getting out of it?
I just think the whole system's weird. This isn't just Oregon State. I'm not just trying to single out Oregon State. I'm sure Oregon every program has a collective.
The whole thing's broken.
The fact that the way it was originally structured and the laws and with the NCAA, that the school can't be directly involved.
Nope.
So it's all done at arm's length.
Coaches can't have any. They're not supposed to have any knowledge.
And they're not
what's
supposed to have
either.
any knowledge or control over it, which is, stupid. And clearly, they have to be careful what they say publicly and all this other nonsense. So if there's a way to have some structure across the country that's uniform for everybody, that they're not leaving it up to individual states to decide what you can and can't do as it relates to public schools, which is idiotic, but and have it be what it was intended to be, to reward players that come to the program. The problem and what they didn't want it to do, but which it clearly became, was a way to get kids to come to your institution in the first place. And that's where all the coaches are bitching and moaning. Is if you don't have anything at the start, you're never going to get a sniff from anybody.
Well, it's an odd thing that these institutions are worth millions and millions of dollars in subsidies and all these things that they can get endowments. They have all this money and they're like, hey, can you chip in $150? And I always wonder for anybody of any program, say you donate $1,000 and you don't make that much, but you donate $1,000. Are you happy at the end of the season?
Yeah.
And then you get a story like this where a guy is holding you by the balls and entering the portal.
Yeah, those donations are not tax deductible. You're not going to get most of the big donors, like the big donors. One, they want it to go to the institution itself. Oftentimes those gifts are tax deductible, but then they want to see their name on something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's, and they want all the special treatment and all that sort of stuff. And if it goes to the NIL, it's outside the school. The school can't do anything.
Well, if you donate $250, which is a decent amount of money for most people, you're not being welcome in and hugging the coach the way the guy that donated $350K is.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, thanks for your donation. Get out of here.
I'll actually I don't know who is behind it and who's leaking information and saying things. I actually appreciate what Oregon State's doing in this spot. When the initial report came out, now I know local reporters had it, and shout out to them, Beaver Blitz and whoever else reported it first. And then when Pete Thamel got it, he got NIL information in his league. And somebody from the university gave him that information.
Clearly, yeah.
And so I actually do tip of the cap to them. And now you're getting this story in the Oregonian where it's about, he was paid this much, but he's saying he was supposed to get this much. And then the collective saying, no, we gave him this much. And they're kind of fighting dirty. And I like that we're getting to the bottom of some of this stuff and figuring out what happened here. The follow-up question that I had was, from the reporting, it sounded like they already gave him the $100,000. I would demand that money back.
Well, so it doesn't. So the $400K seems like it's probably accurate,
but it's not a one-time
It's not
payment.
a lump sum. It's
No.
it's increments to $400K.
Yes, it's like making a salary. You don't make your yearly salary in one payment. You make it on a biweekly or monthly or weekly basis.
I don't know what he did or did not do for the first increment of that payment. There's probably debate on that, but like that's the whole part of this. Like that's another part of this. It's all gross.
It's all broken.
It's like, oh, this kid took this money from the collective, but this collective isn't attached to the university, but they're paying us in representation of the university. It's just a weird. I think the whole system is weird and awkward. It's, it's terrible, man. I feel for everybody involved. Running a collective's not gonna. It cannot be easy.
No.
How much do you give certain athletes on certain teams? Like, what are you prioritizing with the women's team? Because clearly they're bolting.
Right. Do you just put all your resources into baseball at this point and say that's our thing and we're just going to be a powerhouse?
They can't afford to. They owe $50 million, I believe, on that stadium,
on the football
correct?
stadium, yeah.
So I believe they still owe on the new stadium that they just finished building right as the conference quite literally imploded on them.
And the tough part here, too, is I think the fear of where it's going at Oregon State specifically is that the worst thing, and it was already setting in, and now it's probably even more, when apathy sets in the fan base of just like, well, what are we going to do? And you throw your hands up and you kind of give up. That's the worst thing that could happen.
Well, but in a way, you kind of...
I don't blame anybody who's having that happen to them.
You kind of understand it. It's not to say they're not good fans. It's more to say, like, I don't blame you because if you donate $300...
Right.
You're not getting anything for that. Your team's not going to be that great.
It's not keeping Damien Martinez on the roster.
It's not. You and everybody else donating to make that money isn't clearly helping.
And that's at least when Jonathan Smith left, you had that kind of groundswell of support where the fan base came together and they started these different collectives and they were raising money and people were donating. And you're like, all right, there's going to be a big FU energy to the coach who left and let's stick together and band together. And part of that was, hey, we've raised enough money to keep Damien Martinez, and now he's gone. And I think to your point, if I were a fan and I had been donating, my reaction would be the same of like, what am I doing here?
Do you donate to Oregon?
I do not. They do not need my money.
Yeah, I never donate to Oregon State. They email me all the time. I'm like, piss off. I gave you $23,000.
We're doing fine. Phil Knight's got a few more dollars than I do. They don't need my $49.99 monthly check, okay? They're going to be all right.
$50 monthly check. That's pretty impressive, actually.
They're going to be just fine, man.